Welcome, everyone, to today's show. A boomer and a Gen Xer walk into a bar, coming to you from the Rabbit Hole Studio, where you, as our listener, will experience some wit and wisdom, some smartassery, and a mother and daughter questioning, are we even related? My name is Bobbi Joy, and my co-host is my mom, Jane, and we are here to entertain you for the next few minutes, at least. How are you, Mom?
I'm good, Bobby. Thanks for asking. How are you?
I'm good. So I'm walking down to the studio today, and I noticed that you have something new in your living room.
Oh, my goodness. Yes, I do. And I'm certain that you have some comments about it.
I do. So let's tell everybody what you did.
So
what did you do?
I had a bigger kind of pit
Modular
sofa in
Couch.
the living room,
Davenport.
Davenport in the living room, and we got rid of it, and we got a regular sofa, leather sofa that's got the recliners and all that business. And you made some smart ass comment about it.
Well, I did because, the modular couch, could maybe not so comfortably, fit all of the grandkids and kids when we come over for holidays. And now you go in there and you look and it's saying, guess what, kids, you're only here for dinner.
That's right.
And get out. Because there ain't nowhere to sit. There ain't nowhere to sit anymore.
TikTok, yeah. I'll give you dinner, but you're not staying for dessert.
Yep.
How about that? I don't need anybody getting comfortable. No, actually, we had a low profile couch in there, or, pit kind of thing. And it wasn't comfortable for us, although it did allow for a lot of seating. It's just something that didn't work for us.
Could hold your 100 grandkids.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness. So anyway, I got to tell everybody. So again, we're in the Midwest. The wind today was crazy.
It's horrible.
It's like, it used to be Chicago was a windy city.
Yeah. No.
We are the sister or the queen of wind.
Well, and it's like Iowa, either you're 100 degrees and soaking in humidity, or it's so windy you can't even open your eyes against it. There's no in between.
Yeah, or it's 30 to 40 below wind chill factor. Yeah.
Come to Iowa. Let's not say that, because we could still get snow.
That's true. That's true.
That.
We have gotten snow in late April before. So Bobby, we have a pretty interesting topic today.
We do, and today's topic is going to delve deep into the afterlife.
Do you believe in ghosts?
Ghosts.
Ooh,
I'm in your house.
My call is coming from inside the house. Oh, wait, that's kind of just creepy. That's not really a
That's
ghost.
like killer stalkerish.
That's stalker stuff. Okay.
And I kind of wonder why, we see all these, or we hear about all these ghosts and everything, and they're like from, 1700s, 1800s, early 1900s.
Yeah.
You don't hear of a ghost in 2025 that kicks down your door and goes, it's Brittany, bitch. Okay. Like, why? That's the ghost I want.
Well, and also, because they say, oh, what was the ghost wearing? Victorian clothing, or,
do they issue it on the other side?
Civil War clothing. And it's like, why isn't there anything from before that or after that? Why isn't some punk rocker, haunting my house or something?
Or some mom with moon boots and a fur coat.
Right.
Like, come on now.
That's right. But so we're going to talk about, do you believe in ghosts?
Yeah. Do you believe in ghosts?
Do you believe in ghosts?
So I got a statistic for you. Did you know a solid majority of adults in the United States actually believe in one kind of paranormal or supernatural phenomenon?
And what's interesting is there's a lot of reality shows now that are ghost chasers.
There's whole channels that are nothing but ghost shows.
YouTube channels where, they say that they're ghosts, or they've got some type of activity that's going on that can't be explained, and so they attribute it to the paranormal. And so we're going to talk about this a little bit. So, are there different kinds of ghosts, do you think?
I think there are. There are.
Poltergeist,
apparition. I think that there's also imprintation or loops where it's not an active haunting. It's just something that kind of was imprinted on a place or a thing and just kind of relives the same moment over and over again.
They get attached either to a house,
A house? A house? Don't you know?
I was going to say home, and then I thought maybe I'll go with house. They get attached. You'd think we've been drinking, you know, but you get attached to a house or to a piece of furniture, or even creepier, to a doll.
Yeah. Or God forbid a person. I mean, following that person around.
Or they follow them around. So do you think, Bobbi, that you've ever been in a haunted house?
I grew up in one.
You didn't grow up in one.
Oh, yes, I did on the cemetery.
You didn't.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, that wasn't really haunted. Okay.
Listen, my room was in the basement and no one would be home, and I would hear footsteps going down that hallway. Nobody's there. Can't tell me that's not haunted.
So Bobby's dad was a sexton.
Yes.
And he took care of the cemetery, and the cemetery was across the road from us and also to the side of the home that we lived in. And I will admit there were some activities that did occur in that house.
Nothing threatening ever.
No. You know, I don't remember having any threatening activities at all. And as you're aware, my mom was clairvoyant, had a little clairvoyancy. A little bit. I have a little bit of it. Your sister has a teeny tiny bit of it. And so sometimes we were kind of like, is that happening to us because of some gift that we were given? Or some, you know, is it some type of spirit or whatever? And
it's having that empath aura around you. Yeah, where you can feel it more than anything.
And my whole thing, these girls can attest to it, and actually many people can that have been around me, is over the years what's happened with me is sometimes I would get a fleeting thought and it would be true.
Yeah.
And so when I would call my girls and say, hey, you know, as an example, where's Corey?
Yeah, are you okay?
Is Corey okay?
Yeah.
And Bobby immediately would go, oh my gosh, you know, please, Mom, what happened? And, you know, I'd just say, let's just say a prayer and let's put a light around him. You know, let's just protect him here real quick, because I never knew.
Right.
But a lot of the things that had come to me as, you know, just thoughts, they were very fleeting thoughts, really did happen. And I'll talk about some of those with you, and you're aware of them, but our listeners are not. So,
and it's more of a feeling with me, like when you got thrown from Liberty. And
Liberty was a Clydesdale that I had under saddle.
Yep. And she got spooked by that, what was it, a rat snake or something like that?
No, there were bull snakes there.
Bull snake. Okay, yep. She got spooked and you got thrown, and I immediately was like, oh man, something's wrong. Something's really wrong.
So I'm going to go into a few of those things so that people can understand, you know, just how weird
we are.
We are as a family. So let's talk about some ghosts. So I'm really kind of interested, you know, from our listeners, whether or not they've ever had any experiences, and we would really love to hear from y'all on this topic, even if it's just something that, you know, you're not really sure, but it was just something, maybe a thought that came to mind or whatever. But we know that there's really no scientific evidence.
Correct.
Right? So we know that, you know, centuries of scientific research haven't found any evidence to support any existence of ghosts or paranormal activities. Now, you know, Dr. Domain and I, being very strong in the faith, we know that there's the Holy Ghost, right? So we believe in that ghost. And angels, there are some angels, you know, that we're aware of in our faith.
But
there's demons.
Are angels really ghosts? Because I was always taught that angels never walked the earth. They weren't human forms. So would they really be considered ghosts, or would they be considered more of an entity?
Great question, because, you know, the Bible talks about demons also. Right. And, you know, how do those come to you? Sometimes they can come in human form. Sometimes they can come in other manifestations. So I
think those would be like a separate column from ghosts.
I do too. Yeah. So let's kind of stick to the ghost side of it for the paranormal activity. I think that, you know, many individuals do believe in ghosts based on sometimes their personal experiences and then stories, or even cultural beliefs, because the further south you go, let's face it, they are definitely into ghosts.
Yep.
Hoodoo. Would you agree, Dr. Domain?
They got the hoodoo and the voodoo.
The hoodoo and the voodoo.
Yep.
Yeah. I was looking for a house down south in the Savannah area, and connected with this realtor who was a native of the area, and she was well known in the area for having a really good understanding of the area. And so we're looking at these houses, and I happened to go in and I look up, and I just noticed that the ceiling was blue, and I didn't think anything of it. And after about like the third or fourth house, I looked up, into the patio area, and the ceiling was blue. And I was like, excuse me, ma'am, why? We've been in like 3 or 4 houses, and all the ceilings before you enter the door are blue. And she's like, honey child, that's Haint Blue.
Yes.
That was a terrible
Haint Blue.
impression.
That
was Haint Blue.
Did
Haint
you
Blue.
want me to do that for you, honey, darling? That is called Haint Blue.
And I was like, well, what is that? And it's to keep the haints out. And they would see it as blue sky, and then they would
follow that instead of coming in your house.
Keep the spirits out.
Keep the spirits
so that
out.
They wouldn't come into
but
the house.
very, very. Yeah, there's a lot of voodoo, you go down to Savannah, you get ghost tours. And that's a
Savannah's
big
very
attraction.
haunted. Yeah.
And a lot of Civil War type of hauntings, and in the area that I was living in Fort McAllister, they had a lot of battles in that area, and they were known for a lot of ghost sightings and things like that. So,
yeah, and you go on down to New Orleans, and of course, they
the cemetery tours and everything.
Yeah,
It's
it's
awesome.
just very interesting. And so, I can't say that when I was in Savannah with you or down south that I ever really experienced anything. Mine usually ends up being more of a feeling. And so, a lot, we talked about ghost hunting. While ghost hunting is kind of a popular activity, the methods used are kind of considered, what do we want to say, pseudoscience? There's no real credible evidence to support any of their claims or that their equipment actually works.
Yeah.
I mean, have you watched some of those, Bob?
I have. Well, I have a spirit box at home that my dad bought me quite a few years ago. So a spirit box it's a tool that I guess they kind of made for ghost hunting, and what it does is it scans hundreds of different frequencies at a rapid pace. And what supposedly, I'm going to say supposedly because there's no scientific evidence, supposedly it's used to communicate with any kind of entities or spirits that wish to communicate by using the different frequencies.
Sure.
And so you'll hear words pop up and things like that when you ask it questions. But I got that many years ago, and there's a pretty famous hotel in Perry that I used to work at called the Hotel Pate, or Patty, however you want to say it.
Yeah.
Very old hotel, very rich history. And anybody who's worked there knows that basement is definitely, there's something going on down there. And so there was quite a few times that I actually went down there with the spirit box and my headphones in and just sat there and listened.
So I stayed at the Hotel Patty before.
Yeah.
Never had any experiences. It's a cool hotel.
It is.
If you ever make it to Iowa, it's super old hotel. I don't know what year it was built, but it was empty for a long time. Some investors came in and spent millions of dollars to refurbish this particular hotel, and it's pretty darn cool. They have theme rooms in there.
Yes, every room is a different theme.
Yeah, I'm getting a little off base there, but
yeah.
So where do you think is the most reported haunted areas that people have ever been to?
Civil War battlefields.
It is Civil War battlefields. I would have said graveyards.
No, Civil War battlefields, because it's going to be where their energy had the most trauma. And the most trauma would have been on that battlefield and the surrounding areas, because a lot of the surrounding houses were made into field hospitals.
So that's where, I would have not guessed that. I would have guessed, the graveyards. And it is the battlefields. What about structures? What kind of structures do you think are the most haunted?
Asylums and hospitals.
Actually, hotels.
Hotels.
Yeah, the Stanley Hotel. You know about Stanley Hotel.
Yep, Stanley Hotel. And the one in Los Angeles, the Cecil Hotel. Yeah, that one's a pretty big one.
Yeah. Now, there is a penitentiary, Eastern State Penitentiary. And, penitentiaries are pretty good for not really seeing the visions of anyone, but hearing the noises,
Right.
and having the communication through some of the squawk boxes that y'all
Right.
talk about. Gettysburg.
Gettysburg, huge.
The Lizzie Borden house.
Yes. Yep. The Lizzie Borden house and Villisca axe murder house here in Iowa.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's documentaries out there. And if you get the opportunity, if you're even at the slightest interested in these things, there's a lot of documentaries out there related to these. One that I thought was super interesting was the Winchester house.
Oh, I would die to see that. I mean, I probably would have to die to see it, but yeah, that is definitely one that is on my top of my bucket list, is the Winchester house.
So the Winchester house, as everyone is probably aware, the Winchester guns, right?
Yep.
And they were actually made for the war.
Yep.
They were the original.
It was back when they were settling the land, fighting for the West.
Right.
A lot of Native Americans died by their guns.
Right. And so Sarah Winchester, the wife of Mr. Winchester.
Yep. The heir to the Winchester fortune.
She started building the Winchester house, and it is full of doors. And the reason for that is because she went to a psychic all the time.
Yep.
And the psychic had convinced her that, she continued to build and continued to have doors whereby the spirits could escape. That would kind of be retribution for what her husband had done by providing all of the guns
Right.
that killed so many people. And it's a pretty cool place. There's hundreds of rooms. I guess it's like 7 stories high.
Yep.
And
there's staircases to no place. There's doors that open to straight drops. There are, and they're still finding, from what I last heard up to today, they're still finding doors and rooms in this house that they had not previously known were there.
And that particular mansion is in San Jose, California.
Yep.
So if you're ever in that area, folks,
I'd be there.
you'd be there. So what else related to ghosts, Bobby? So do you ever get the feeling of ghosts being around you?
Well, before
Have
we
you
go into
ever
that-
seen any?
Before we go into that, you were talking about that there hasn't really been any scientific evidence of ghosts or spirits, things like that. There kind of have been studies on it because they did a study through thermodynamics. And anybody who knows the study of thermodynamics, if I could talk, knows that energy cannot be created nor destroyed. Now, we as humans and other ecosystems are not closed energy sources. We're open systems. So that means that we are constantly exchanging energy with our surroundings. Mm-hmm. Now, what they wanted to know is, at our death, what happens to our energy? Because it doesn't just disappear. It's not destroyed. It doesn't just magically go away. And so they actually have done quite a few studies on that. And a lot of people have linked that with like maybe the soul leaving your body type of thing.
Right.
But what it is it's literally energy. It's energy distribution. It's energy that comes from your body and goes out into the universe. Where does it go? What does it do? We're not sure, but we know it's there.
Right. And the other thing is not only will energy leave us, energy can enter us.
Correct.
And so, biblically, again, we look at that as being either some type of, positive spirit or demonic spirit. And so we do know that can be measured because they have measured that, correct?
Correct.
And so then I have to ask you, do you believe in ghosts, Bobby?
I do. I do through personal experience. Yes, I do.
And so when I say, do you believe in ghosts, and you say yes, are we talking about an energy force? Or are we talking about somebody who walked the face of this earth and you think that they came back?
I think that there are quite a few different ways of thinking about it, and I've experienced quite a few ways of them. I've personally experienced what I call like a free will ghost, which would be a ghost that could come in And instead of replaying a certain scenario or scene over and over again, they actually have the free will to interact with a living being or an object within this realm.
Well, if you'd get a smaller sofa.
So what would your name be as a ghost? Would you have a name?
Oh, that's a good one. What would your name be?
Well, I can tell you this story.
I want to hear. And then give me your best pickup line as a ghost. Ready? Go.
Dang, I don't even have one.
Oh, that's so lame.
Oh, my goodness.
Be like, hey, baby, you want to share them sheets?
Or I can see right through you. I know you want me.
Right. But I mean, I can share this story about what I believe was like a free energy spirit. And it's one that when my daughter, Joey, who's now almost 19. No, she is 19. Sorry. She was about 2 or 3 years old. And at this point, my father's mother had passed quite a few years before that. She never got to meet my kids. And my father's mother was a big component of my childhood. She was always around. I was always with her. And so I had an apartment over in the old neighborhood where she had lived. And I could walk in one day and I'm, watching her play and talk to somebody. And I'm like, who are you talking to? And she goes, Kitty. And I said, oh, you're playing with the kitty cat. She goes, no, Kitty. And I was like, what? Like, this child has never heard of my grandmother at this point. And so it was like a year later and she does it again. And I'm like, what do you mean Kitty? And she goes, Kitty's over there. And I was like, well, who's Kitty? And she goes, Kitty, the lady. And I was like, no, we're not playing this game because, I'm freaked out at this point. But hand to God, she described my grandmother, the big glasses she used to wear, her curly hair, the fact that she was so short. She's a short little kitty. That's what she said. She's a short little kitty, but her name Kitty. And I was just like, this child has never, ever seen a photo of my grandmother. She has never heard us refer to my grandmother as Kitty. It was always Meemaw. And here she is playing with Kitty.
That's interesting.
And I was flabbergasted.
That's the first time I've heard that story from you.
I've never told anybody that story.
I hadn't heard that story.
And she remembers it. She still remembers it to this day.
So you feel that you had kind of an experience with that or one of the kids did.
Yeah.
What about you, Dr. Domain? Do you believe in ghosts?
Yeah, I think we touched on that a little bit. I believe in the Holy Ghost. Yeah,
Yeah?
absolutely.
What about ghosts that stay here on Earth or stay with us as either energy forces or people that, a lot of times people say, our angels were around us or there were angels that were protecting you. And is that a previous life or is that an angel that was, made before we know when they were? I don't know.
Well, I think it's possible. I mean, there's a lot of souls that have been on this earth, and there's likely some type of spirits that are here, that are present, whether they're angels or other types of souls.
Have you ever had an experience where you thought that you saw a ghost or you thought that you experienced some type of spirit and it was more than just a bump in the night?
No, I don't think I've seen anything. I've heard things.
Okay.
Like I've heard really distinctly my mother's voice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was kind of out of the blue. I just heard some things, and she has a very distinct voice, and I could hear that, and I knew it was her.
Yeah. So, I mean, for me, I've had so many experiences. It's crazy, but I do recall, my mom. I remember I had an Aunt Lydia, and we didn't have a phone when I was growing up, and neither did a lot of my relatives. I mean, we were all out in the country and we were poor. We didn't have phones. And I remember my mom, having situations where she would say things and we were like, how'd you know that? And, I remember her coming in one night and she said, you need to get up, because my Aunt Lydia lived in Knoxville. And she said, we need to go. Aunt Lydia died. And it was like, how do you know?
Yeah.
It's like,
I didn't hear a phone ring. There was no phone.
Nobody came to the door. And she said, Aunt Lydia just died. And we had to go, and she did just die. And, some of those things I have had. And at first it would scare me. And then it was like, oh, no, because use your powers for good and not evil. But I mean, I could tell you a few things. I was living on a farm during my last marriage. And I remember when I first got up there, he said, this house is haunted. And I go, well, bring it on, because I don't really believe in that crap. I mean, and even though I'd had a lot of experiences, I said, just bring it on. And there were so many things. I mean, I remember cleaning out a closet that was under the staircase, and I was pulling everything out, and something whispered in my ear. And I turned around real quick thinking, was somebody in there with me?
Yeah.
And I thought, no, I must have, I must have been imagining it. And pretty soon, I mean, I felt that breath on my ear and in that house. And that one kind of freaked me out because that was like the first time. And then there were so many other things that occurred in that house.
Well, not only in the house, but outside the house. Like when the corn would get tall, you could see people walking through the corn.
No, I couldn't really see people.
Well, not
walking
people. You
through
could
the
see
corn.
where the corn was moving, like people were walking through it. I saw it. So,
and it was kind of interesting because he kept saying, "Oh, I have ghosts," and I go, "Okay,
yeah, right."
One of the other situations is his son bought a house up around the corner from us, and the man who had lived there died the week before. And that was the reason why we were buying this farm. His son wanted to buy it. He wanted, I think it was like 15 acres or something. And we walked into the house, old house, and I always felt stuff.
Yeah.
And I walked into the house, and my ex-husband looked at me because I kind of stepped in the doorway and just stood there for a minute. And he said, "Do you feel something?" And I go, "I don't know." And I kind of just kept standing there. And he goes, "Is he here?" And I said, "No, he's with his daughter." And I didn't know he had a daughter.
Yeah.
I didn't know the old boy had a daughter. And my ex-husband went white. He said, "How would you have known he even had a daughter? She passed away 5 years ago." And so, but there's so many stories I could tell you. And I don't tell people these stories because I expect them to believe me. Because quite frankly, I care less whether you do or not.
Well, you get a one-way ticket to the asylum yourself at that point.
But, I have seen some things, definitely.
Have you ever seen the Hat Man? No, you laugh. You laugh.
Where is the Hat Man?
It's not funny. So, a lot of times, you know how you see like shadows in the corner of your eye, like maybe it's fleeting and you don't really know if you've seen it or not. Well, it's really, really, really old. They call it an urban legend. It's not an urban legend because there's no way all these people are describing the same thing. So they think that it's between where you wake and you sleep, kind of coming out of a REM mode.
Yeah.
And he's called the Hat Man because he's just a dark figure that wears like a fedora hat. But he's been seen in some really haunted places.
I saw him in Poltergeist.
But even Bobby Mackey's and stuff before it was torn down, people, it's a real phenomenon.
Yeah.
And a lot of it, I think, is people seeing the shadow, the dark shadow figures moving.
Yeah.
But there have been people, for a very long time that have specifically described this that have never heard of other people describing it. And all their descriptions are matching up.
Yeah. Now, I used to, believe in having your palm read and, going to see a psychic and things like that.
Oracles and psychics.
Yeah.
And
orbs, you mean, or oracle?
Oracle.
Oh, but after becoming a little bit more familiar with my spiritual side of life, I definitely don't believe in that stuff. But I have had so many experiences that I do believe that there's energy forces. And I've told you kids, when I die, it's nothing but a zip code change to me. I'm moving on.
When I die, I'll be the one chasing you up the stairs at night when you shut the light off. Trust me.
So I'm going to tell you, and I really want our listeners to think about this and think about, I don't want to scare them. But
I
just
do.
think. But
Listen, I have a list. After I die, I'm coming for you.
Okay, well,
okay, I'll be in the corner.
I'll already be dead, so I don't have to worry about it. And you might want to just be a little nicer to me. I'm just saying that because my time comes before yours.
Oh, bring it.
But one of the other things that had occurred, and I'm just going to mention this real quick because it was kind of bizarre for me, and it was probably the one that scared me the most. Was my ex-husband farmed for a guy, and I won't mention his name. Old guy. He old guy. We called him Pete. I won't tell you. It wasn't even his name, but we called him Pete. And he went into a home, and I had said to my ex, I said, "Hey, have you seen Pete?" Because he usually went in to see him like maybe every 2 weeks. He says, "No, I haven't gone to see him for a while." And I said, "Oh, you probably need to go see him, And a week went by, and I said, "Hey, did you ever go up and see Pete?" And he said, "No, not yet." And I said, "Well, make it soon." And then on a Wednesday, this was on Wednesday, I said, "Hey, if you haven't gone to see Pete yet, you need to go see him." And he goes, yeah, I'll try to do that by the end of the week. And I said, okay. On Friday, I sat straight up in bed early in the morning. I can't remember the time. Straight up in bed, and I go, "Oh, Pete just died." And he goes, "What?" And I said, "Pete just died." And he said, "How did you know that?" And I said, "I felt him go through me." Now, why he would ever go through me and whether he did or didn't is irrelevant. That's what I felt. 30 minutes later, his daughter called and said, "Pete just died." And it shook me. I mean, it really shook me because that was the first time that I'd felt something like that. And again, I don't tell people this stuff. As a matter of fact, this is the first time you've probably heard that one, Bobby.
Yeah, you got that Grandma Dickie juju.
But, it's not something that you talk about because most people look at you like you're crazy, and I am crazy. And so, that just kind of puts me over the edge. But Dr. Domain, did you have any stories other than what you've shared with us that maybe you would suspect it to be, I don't know, a sixth sense?
No,
Hello?
I don't know.
Have you ever thought about it?
I've thought about it.
Was that premonition? Was that
probably
some
premonition.
Type of sign?
I don't know. I never really associated it with that.
Okay.
But you always had the not a premonition, but we always had like the childhood things. Like there were certain things that were haunted.
Yeah.
With the haunted bridge and the
haunted bridge.
The House of Seven Ladders and all that creepy stuff.
Let me ask you this, because Bobby, I already know your answer.
Then the
to
haunted
this.
houses, which you and
I and your sisters all went to those when we were younger. And so let me ask you this.
We were going to the haunted house.
we would go to the haunted houses.
Yeah. Jane was there, and she was like stiff arming all the monsters.
I did. Stay away from us. Stay away from us.
She was really,
So, I would really want people to kind of think about this because I truly believe there are energies out there, good, bad, or indifferent. I do believe that there's energy. I don't know what it is. I have no answers to any of that business.
Well, I can say that, there's houses I won't walk in. There's houses that I feel sick in, just from the energy.
Yeah, and I do too. All
I have to do is roll up in the driveway and be like, "Nope, sorry, I ain't doing it. I ain't going in there."
I could tell kind of an interesting story about when my sister died here 5 years ago, and you already know that story. And that one was, that was a shaker too. But would you? So let me ask you this. I'll start with Dr. Domain. Would you spend the night in a haunted house that someone, or it's very well known, the Stanley Hotel? Would you spend the night in the Stanley Hotel or in a haunted, what they would claim to be a haunted hotel?
Would the bed be comfortable?
Does it have magic fingers?
Yeah. Does it have one of those quarter things?
Yeah.
Does it have cable?
Would I? Yeah. What am I getting in return?
You get to sleep at the hotel.
Experience. Yeah.
I get the experience.
You might get to experience some
I
type
don't see a
of
need for that. I could sleep in
or...
my own bed. No, I don't. I mean, if there's some
You feel like
incentive.
there's spirits in your
Well, you
bed?
get
Oh, wait, if I
you
had
get
no
a
other
sticker.
options, like I don't
Driving
know.
through the
I'm on a
Colorado
deserted
mountains.
island, and it's the only haunted house on the island. Yeah, I guess that would be my only option. But
Would you, Bobby? Would you stay in a haunted house?
I would, but I can guarantee you that I would not be sleeping. There would be no sleep happening. I'd probably sit in the corner with my eyes wide open the whole night. But absolutely, I would stay there.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Why?
Yeah.
or just for the
Just to
say
get the
you've
sticker
done-
at the end of the tour. You know, I like stickers.
So when I lived on the farm, I mean, you guys knew that we had activity in that house, and of course, it didn't scare me because I never once felt threatened.
Right.
Your sister did, and
Yeah.
she first time she ever spent the night there, she said, "I'll never be back to spend the night. I'll come visit you, but that's it." And
I never spent the night
you
there.
never spent
Never.
the night there. And so, that's why I wondered, would you actually stay and spend the night?
Yeah,
Do you
I mean-
think that you could face something if you heard some,
Oh,
bumps
absolutely.
in
I
the
mean, I
night or
might
see
pee
some-
myself, but I mean, I'm not running if that's what you're asking. Because, even like on the cemetery growing up, I'm going to be honest with you, that cemetery scared the crap out of the neighborhood kids, but it was the only place that I actually felt safe in that entire neighborhood. I could walk in that cemetery at 1:00 in the morning with no lights on.
Yeah.
And I felt safe.
Yeah.
I felt protected there.
I
and
did
so it was
It was so peaceful, and
It
our
was.
neighbors never had any parties.
Oh man, we were popular
so
one
quiet.
day a year.
Yeah.
Halloween, we were the most popular kids on the block. Any other day, we were the freaks down the street.
Yeah, I was going to say every other day.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's probably. Did you have anything else on this topic, Bobby? Because I think that's probably all the absurdity.
I think
That
that
we can
is.
muster
I
up
I
today.
would love to hear from the listeners. We
I
want to
would
know your
too.
stories. You're good, you're bad, you're scary. Did you ever pee your pants and run out? Or was it a Scooby-Doo moment? Let us know.
Do you have a spirit that follows you? Do you have a doll that's?
Are you haunted?
Yeah. Do you have a haunted or a possessed doll that we can come look at?
Like
'Cause we'll come look.
the Zach Baggins Museum. That's another bucket list item.
Where's
Yeah.
that?
It's down in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
There was some creepy place by the airport over down in Florida, and they had this doll, and you had to be nice to it.
You
and
had to.
stuff.
It was in a. So it was in a glass case, and then they
that's
opened up the glass case.
Zach Baggins has that doll now. He
okay.
has it now. It's in his museum, but he does lend it out respectfully.
Yeah.
And I think his name is like Richard or something like that, the doll's name. But yeah, he acquired that doll. And he's got like Dybbuk boxes. He's got,
What's a Dybbuk box?
I have no idea.
it's a Jewish
Sounds
thing.
naughty.
Oh.
It's a
naughty
Jewish
Jewish thing.
box. It's a box that they contain a bad spirit in.
That's a Jewish thing?
It's a Jewish
Kind
thing.
of like on Ghostbusters, where they took their laser things and they put the ghosts in a box.
Okay.
Remember?
Okay.
Don't
No,
cross the laser.
Don't cross the
paths.
beams. Don't cross the beams.
Don't cross the beams.
No, not the same thing. But it is.
Yeah, I think that'd be cool. So I think that's probably all we have today. We appreciate you joining us here at the Rabbit Hole Studio. Be sure to follow us. We look forward to spending time with you each and every week. Please like us, and if you have some positive feedback for us, or if there's a topic you want us to talk about, please drop us a short email at boomerandgenxer@gmail.com. And if you have some negative or hate mail, well, you know where you can put that. We do take constructive criticism, though. So until next week, I'm Jane Burke.
And I'm Bobby Joy.
And you're stuck with us. Peace out.
Later.